as you may or may not know, Shurima Cup has finally begun and is already underway. Today was day 1 and we've already had some really spectacular games coming out of this tourney. At the end of day 1, we are actually going to be taking the top scorer and reviewing one of their games and seeing exactly what they're doing in order to really lead the pack and lead the way in this cup. Now in today's video, we are going to be VOD reviewing. Actually, this player, I have no idea who they are. Name is Young Yijie. I don't know how to pronounce it, Yijie or whatever. We're just gonna call them Young throughout the video, and we're gonna be seeing a pretty off-meta comp today, which is kind of interesting to see. A comp that used to be meta but has completely fallen off, yet somehow was able to win out a very top tier and challenging lobby. Let's get on to day 1 of Shurima Cup. Okay, so here we go. We are inside of Young's game. Now, again, I have no idea who this player is at all, but when I checked the score sheet at the very end of day 1, Young Yijie, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but we're just gonna call them Young, was the top performer with 40 points, which is absolutely insane over a 6-game average. Just to give you an idea, 40 points, you get 8 points every time you go first, 1 point every time you go 8th, and you know, it's just basically the inverse. And this guy, 40 points over 6 games. This guy went he went first 4 times, and then I believe his only like quote-unquote bad scores was that he went 4th one game and he went 6th another one. So this guy is like absolutely killing the game. We are inside of Unstable Rift, where this realm, it's one of the more least impactful realms. You just get a random item for free. It just has very, very low impact. So if you're looking for a game of TFT with very, very little variance, this is one of those realms, and a lot of pros will actually prefer it due to that reason. Now, we are given a bit of a sort of a wonky start, maybe a potential void opener. We do have the Cho'Gath pair, the Maokai pair, no bruisers. We do have the Cassiopeia pair that is within our shop, but surprisingly enough, not picking it up. I definitely would think you would pick this up over the Kale and yada yada yada. Kale and I believe, what was the other unit? Sorry, I said yada yada yada. I shouldn't say yada yada yada. Kale and the Renekton, but surprisingly enough, he actually does not value the Cassiopeia pair very, very much here, which is sort of a surprising thing to see, because I feel like Cassiopeia is a very popular strong unit that's very good at killing one unit whenever you think you're loose streaking, but you need a unit that can do a lot of damage. Here we are given our 2-1 augments, Portable Forge, Deadeye Crest, and Social Distancing. Social Distancing is sort of the okay option here. It's very flexible, but Portable Forge is Portable Forge. We are running the Ornn Legend here, so it's very likely we reroll middle and right side, and if we don't like what we see, we are going to take Portable Forge. Social Distancing is just kind of one of those augments that's like kind of mid. It's not that great. Three's Company is okay at certain times. It's not that particularly strong versus what you could get out of the Portable Forge here. So we're gonna reroll see Riftwalk as well, which is kind of okay. Not great in this current scenario, only because you really don't take Riftwalk unless you have like a bunch of Cassidans right at the start at 2-1. Usually, in order to make a Cassidon 2 right at 2-1, or you have really good item slams, which we have neither of. So it's going to be a Portable Forge from this spot. I think he does scout around to see if anybody's actually playing around the Riftwalk line. Decides against it, goes Portable Forge. We see Eternal Winter, DFG, and Gold Collector. Eternal Winter is sort of the go-to option for every player. I actually have not actually watched through this VOD myself, so I'm actually watching this live with you guys, so I have no idea what he's going to take from this spot. But if it were me, I'd probably take Eternal Winter. We don't have a great DFG holder or Gold Collector, but DFG is really strong on Lux, so that is also an option as well. We do end up going with the Eternal Winter here. Gonna level to 4 here and try to play our strongest board, being 2 Bruisers and 2 Shadow Wilds. I actually don't think that's our strongest board. I actually think our strongest board probably had to do with this Orianna 2 and the Malzahar as well. It's kind of surprising to see that we are seeing these Shadow Isles here, but you could also make the argument that maybe he just run out of time, so he wasn't able to actually take onto his strongest board here. But with an Orianna 2 on our bench, Orianna 2 was definitely the strongest board, and we'll probably see him switch out, I would hope. At least. Yep, there we go. So, switching out, and we get the Orianna 2 with the Malzahar here for 2 Bruisers, 2 Sork, Eternal Winter with a Sun, Fire, Slam. And again, the random item, the Guard Breaker that pops up at random whenever we are inside of this realm. It looks like, just based off where we are currently situated in, it's probably going to be a 4 Sork game. Typically, 4 Sork is sort of seen as one of the defaults of the current patch. You will see a bunch of people running 4 Sork trying to play around the Lux and the Ahri, and it's sort of one of the main defaults. It's just a very strong line. It didn't get hit too hard with the nerfs. Ahri did get nerfed a little bit, but the change, or rather the nerf, was really not enough. Are you done? Sorry, this is just police siren outside. The Ahri nerfs were not enough to really take Ahri out of the meta. You still see Ahri consistently, and because your one Ahri 1 is enough to really stabilize, pretty hard with Force Sork. You'll see a lot of people trying to play the Force Sork line. It's, again, very, very common. We do see that we actually tech out of the Bruisers and play into Noxus instead, which is kind of an interesting decision to make. You would think that the 2 Bruisers are stronger, but I think right now he likes the directionality of 3 Noxus better and the fact that he gets to make 10 here. So I think this is just a better line for him to take. It's sort of the argument of, hey, this may not be my strongest board, but at least we get to make Econ here and we get to make 10. So we are chilling in a really decent spot. Noxus, just so you know, 3 Noxus is very, very strong within the early game. It's one of the strongest early game traits. Even without this Conquer stacks, the unit quality is just very, very high. So whenever you get to play 3 Noxus in the early game, it's always something you should consider in order to try and play for some HP preservation. Right now, I think in the early game, you'll see a lot of Void players, a lot of Noxus players as well, because of the same reason, where you get to preserve a lot of HP for playing a very relatively easy to hit board. A lot of the Noxus units are very low cost, and same with the Void units. Also, just with Void, you see the Remora very often, and Void lets you play into Sorks and AP in general very, very easily. So going into 2-6 now, we do have the Azir that is in our shop here. That is definitely a bait though. Normally, you don't like to hold these 4 costs too early on just because it can really grief your economy. We do want to make sure we are trying to hit 20 gold at 2-6 whenever possible. There are a couple of different playstyles that exist that, you know, you don't actually have to try to make 20 within 2-6. The most iconic, I guess, playstyle that comes to mind is the Lee Sin Trade Sector playstyle, where you are playing very, very aggressively and making 20 at 2-6 isn't much of a problem. But I mean, we are playing standard here, so making 20 here is ideal. We actually do sell off all of the castings to pick up the Azir here, which is an interesting decision to make. I personally don't think I would have done the same thing, only because I do think Azir is just sort of weak in the current meta. You don't see Azir very often anymore, especially with the Azir Lux line. You only really play that kind of a line if you are really hard forced into it and you really aren't given any other choice. It's usually a very, very top 4 board, and I believe it has actually one of the lowest top 4 rates out of the current quote-unquote meta boards, if you will. Here we are making 40. We are probably going to be slamming that Ionic Spark here. We get the Cassiopeia 2, teching on the Azir onto our board for a bit of strategist, and we are sitting at a pretty, I wouldn't say good board, but it's a board. Like, we are 4-streaking here, so I would be a little surprised not to see the level into level 6 here, just because we do want to try to preserve the streak. But I guess after scouting, he's probably deduced that he probably will not be winning, especially because, yeah, we got a fucking Azir on our board. But we get to make 50 gold here. We are actually really, really strong within our economy here. And surprisingly enough, it looks like we are actually winning here. So maybe he scouted and even thought, like, hey, it looks like I can just beat everybody even with this crap board, so maybe we are chilling. I don't have to level here, and he reads the econ. Really interesting stuff here. Going into the 3-2 augments, Small Forge, Branching Out, and On a Roll. All of these are shit. These are terrible. Definitely reroll middle and right side. Branching Out is basically a never take augment. I can barely think of a good time or a good opener where you go, oh, I want Branching Out in this spot. Never, ever really take Branching Out. It's too large of a gamble. It's like a half silver augment. It's actually really, really bad. So we're not going to be taking either of these. Definitely reroll middle and right side. Unified is great. You'll see a lot of Sork players or players who like to run Sork, myself included, really lean towards Unified Resistances because it works super well with the 4 Sork board, where you're usually playing a front line that consists of Swain, Jarvan, Shen, and Carrick, with the back line being the, well, I believe is the Ahri, the Karma, the Sona, and the Lux. Ooh, big brain. So you have 4 in the front and 4 in the back. Goes really, really well with Unified. One of the best augments that you can take for that composition. And because we are, again, probably trying to lean into Sorks here whenever we can, probably want to be taking Unified in this spot. Young, Wild, and Free is actually sort of an okay decision as well to take from this spot. It doesn't actually pump the power of our board at all. We are on a win streak here, so taking an augment that can continue our win streak is probably the best option. Young, Wild, and Free though is really nice, so if we think our components are going to be pretty bad, and because we are win streaking, and if we think we're going to keep this win streak going, we're not going to have a lot of prio on the carousel, so it can be really nice to try to grab a really important component. Small Forge is okay, but again, it's not nearly as good as Unified. We will probably re-roll it, and actually, ooh, he takes Young, Wild, and Free. Very interesting choice here. So he takes Young, Wild, and Free, and I think the reason why he takes it is because right now on his current board, he actually has only 2 frontliners and 4 backliners. It looks like he really doesn't want to roll at all. He thinks his board is probably stable enough to get him throughout stage 3. I don't know if I fully agree with that. Obviously, you do have to scout the lobby. This changes every single time. But his board right now seems really piss weak for a stage 3 board. No real upgrades except for the Cassiopeia 2 here. We do have Eternal Winter with a 3-item tank, but I don't know if that's really enough for us to streak. Tanks and 3 items, or really strongly itemized tanks, are really great throughout the mid game, but they can only take you so far. Surprisingly enough, we actually win this one as well. We are sitting on an Azir pair here, and we can start to think about maybe potentially playing into this Azir here. I don't think it's a good idea, to be completely honest. We are Azir paired. If we find a random Azir 2, we might as well play it. If it's our strongest board, we will. But again, we don't have any bows, any items that work really well with Azir. We do have the Ionic Spark, which is nice. We are leaning AP, but no bows usually is a no-go for Azir. Bars. But surprisingly enough, this kind of seems a bit high roll in my opinion. It doesn't seem like he's running that strong of a board, but he's running a board that seems decent enough that's going to streak him. Does pick up the Lux here because, again, we do want to try to play into Sorks. Azir Lux could act as a crutch, actually, before we head into the 4-Sork board. So I actually really like that he's trying to use Azir as a sort of a mini spike throughout the mid game, and then we're going to apply tech off of it later on. Here, you can see that he pumps level a little bit. He actually levels up to 40 here, or he pumps down to 40, but then he just doesn't level. Okay, there we go. Yeah, definitely levels here to keep the streak going here, and now we have a sort of interesting board going on here. Again, it's kind of a surprise he's 7 streaking. It doesn't really seem like his board is really strong, but it's very possible that the tempo of the lobby is just very slow because everyone is trying to play for some really hard spikes at 4-1 and at 4-2. Usually in tournament, what you'll see is that a lot of players will actually opt to roll completely on 7, and a lot of players may actually end rolling on 7 because that is how you play for your, on average, better placements. You do want to be rolling on 7 most of the time, just because you can try to find all your 2-star forecasts and then try to go 8. Obviously, it depends on your spot, depends on your HP. Whenever you are low rolling or you have low HP throughout the early and mid game, excuse me, whenever you have low HP throughout the early and mid game, you're gonna probably want to roll on 7 quite hard until you're able to completely stabilize into a board that you think is strong enough to keep going. So we do finally take our first loss, which in my opinion is a super high roll. I don't know how the fuck he made it this far with this board, but we are level 7, 50 gold, chilling. We are probably gonna go fast 8 and then again transition to that 4-Sork board. It's probably the best way to go about this game. So going into Wolves here, let's see what we get dropped here. We do get a tier, which is really nice. Guard Breaker as well. We do already have the Sunfire Slam, which is not really an option here. And you can see, like I said before, we are rolling on 7 to try to find these units that we really want for our Sork board. We do have the pair of Luxes. We do have Lux 2. Really nice stuff. Shannon Shop as well. Really nice. This Azir is a little awkward. It's not supposed to stay on the board, I don't think. But I think it's just there because he just ran out of time in order to fully pivot the board. We are lacking on the Demacia front, so we are looking for a J4, maybe even a Garen to try to play this Lux Azir line just for a little bit, and then eventually pivot again into 4 Sorks like we talked about before. Now, here we go, 4-2 augments. We are, he rerolls return on investment. That seems pretty obvious. I mean, we already spent our money. LDP, really strong augments. One of my favorite augments of the set. It's a very interesting augment in terms of the way you position it. It is a little difficult to play around, but if you can derive a lot of value out of 2 carries, long distance pals is super duper strong. Obviously, we are going to reroll Infusion now because we did hit LDP. Check what it is, Parting and Jewel Lotus, and it looks like it is an LDP angle. I mean, you have Azir and Lux on your board, but it's eventually going to become a Ahri and Lux board, so that's probably better here. I think he's a little conflicted between Jewel Lotus as well as LDP because he is playing 4-Sork, so everybody is casting their abilities, trying to do damage, so Jewel Lotus is really nice. It's actually a large buff, but 15% crit, and the gold Jewel Lotus, I think it's generally agreed upon that the gold one is just not very worth it versus the prismatic, which is super worth it. Mostly just because even though it's nice that your abilities can crit, everybody gains 50% crit. It's not a lot of crit chance. So, I mean, even though, yeah, the abilities have a chance to crit, 15% to crit, or the chance to crit, it's very low. So, LDP is probably the correct option in this scenario. You could maybe make an argument for parting gifts. No, you can't. No, you can't. I was thinking about, oh yeah, maybe the Eternal Winter just like pops around, but like, I mean, nah, not really. So, here we are, 4-2, Azir Lux. It seems that we are actually playing into this Azir Lux board, and again, item holding for our Ahri. That seems to be the case here. It doesn't really make sense to be playing Azir Lux, especially in this meta, especially with no bows. We don't even have Demacia in. We are still lacking a lot of really core units, such as, well, if we are playing Azir Lux, the Garen as well, but we are, yep, there's the Garen. And surprisingly enough, he actually keeps rolling here, which I'm not entirely sure what he's rolling for. It seems that we have a Lux 2. We do have the Azir 2. I guess maybe he wanted to fortify his front line a little more. So we wanted to try to hit like at least the Swain 2, or in this case the Taric 2. And then we can try to go level 8. It looks like he is holding onto the Garens though. So surprisingly enough, he actually might be leaning towards Azir Lux, which is kind of an interesting decision to make. Azir Lux is one of those combos you really want 3 items on both your carries. I mean, in Lux's case it's 2, but the Moss makes it 3. But it is one of those combos you really want a lot of components in, and because our augments aren't really feeding us a lot of components, it's going to be a little difficult for us to hit everything that we want when it comes to itemizing our carries. We do get the tier off of Carousel. I don't really know if he's taking this because of the tier or if he's taking it because of Cassante or both. In my eyes, he's taking it for Cassante. Because it seems like, yeah, he takes it for Cassante here because it's the strongest board, and he also gets to tech in Shurima. Makes a lot of sense here, and he's going to tech down to 2 Sorks, which is kind of an interesting decision to make because we are teching out of the strategist from Swain, so that's a little interesting. I was not expecting to see that. So it looks like we're LDP Azir Lux, which again, really strange decision to be making, especially when we only have this is Azir 2 for fun, really. It just happened to fall into our laps here, but we don't have any bows to really make the most of it. So really odd decision, but look at our HP though. It's 4-6, almost going into stage 5, and a lot of players are slowly like starting to really die off. 19 HP, 23 HP, 24, 29, 38 for the 4th place spot, and we are at 73, a very, very comfortable 73. So it's very possible we can play this board for a pretty long time and then not worry too much about pivoting out, but probably around stage 5 is when we're going to really start to feel the pain and not be able to keep sitting on this board. Name of the game now is that we have a decent amount of upgrades here. We are going to try to save up and go level 8. We do unfortunately lose again, and you can start to see where Azir Lux really starts to fall off, especially with the lack of Azir items. We do find an Aatrox in our shop. Not really sure if it's even really worth picking up in this current spot, just because it is very expensive and doesn't really fit onto the current board. But let's see what we get dropped here. Tier, bow, shiv, really nice stuff. We got a chain as well, potentially for Protector's Vow for Cassante. I will say though, sorry, I'm a bit gassy. I had some chicken. I had some good ass chicken, but like sometimes like the way that Chinese prepare chicken, I don't know what it is about it, but it's like that should make me gassy a little bit. I don't know what's going on. Also, I should probably sit up a little bit, right? This is a YouTube video. This ain't my stream. I gotta sit up. Hold on. Apologies. I'm a little tired. I was actually drinking with my boys yesterday, so yeah, that's gotten definitely about a bit of effect on me. Here we are going to push level to level 8. Really great stuff here. We are going to probably tech onto the Garen as well. Wow. So okay, that's a decision. So in this spot, I don't think most players would sell their shed. This is really interesting. Whew. I don't like the idea of selling Shen here. The reason why I don't like selling Shen here is because Azir Lux has a very, very, very low cap. Very low cap. And if you are selling the Shen in this spot, you are basically saying, okay, fuck Shen, fuck Invokers, fuck Ionia, fucking Ahri, fuck my direction. I'm not doing this shit no more. I'm going to try to secure a top 4 and just commit to Azir Lux. Now, it's possible that they made the decision because of the bow that was dropped out. Not a lot of great Ahri items, but you can maybe make an argument for blue buff, and that's about it. But maybe Chalice Slamming for an Ahri as well, but we don't have a lot of great Ahri items. I mean, it's not like we have a lot of great Azir items as well. We do have the Shiv, but we also already have an Ionic Spark Slam, so it's like kind of redundant. But still, you know, totally possible to like still play into Ahri here and just find the Ahri items later. But he decides to sell the Shen here. Sells the Shen here, plays the Swain 2 onto his board because it is his strongest board. And now we are hitting here with a Vow Slam. We got a 3-item Swain tank. Technically 2 actually. It is a void item for that Bramble. And a Shiv onto our Azir here. And it looks like, wow, we are actually playing Azir Lux. Playing Azir Lux on this patch, and it's actually winning. Surprisingly enough, it's very possible that this comp actually just requires LDP. Like, this is actually just one of those comps that if you have LDP, it's viable, and then without it, it's actually pretty dookie. I actually was forced to play into an Azir line earlier today on my stream, and I can tell you that this comp, I did not have LDP, but this comp felt like fucking dipshit. It was actually so bad. Like, actually, like, egregiously bad. It was not okay. Like, look at this fight. We're playing into a fucking Darius 3 with full Noxus stacks, right? This should never win. This Azir Lux board should never beat this Noxus board. But it fucking does. It's close, but it does win. So I guess LDP really enables this comp. I mean, this comp uses LDP super fucking well. It ain't the best, just because Lux does want to be on the same side, if not adjacent to the Azir, to try and get a little bit of that extra shred onto the same targeting. But nonetheless, with LDP, it looks like this comp is actually kind of doing okay and cruising. We're not playing to any weak boards either. This is a Zeri Frillier board, one of the strongest meta boards currently in the patch. But with LDP and Azir Lux, we are winning. We are winning. Really crazy stuff. We are also sitting on very awkward synergies with the 3 Sork as well. But I guess this young dude don't give a fuck because we are being chilling in this spot. Really actually just crazy stuff. Like, I'm actually kind of amazed this board is as stable as it is. As you can see from the damage charts, like none of the units are dealing like crazy amounts of damage. Looks like we are rolling here a little bit, trying to find a little bit more stability. Maybe try to find the Nasus 2, maybe try to find the Jarvan 2. But I think the reason why he's rolling here is like, and not trying to save the Go 9 is because I think he knows that like this board is not very meta. It's not very competitively strong. So yes, even though we are sneaking by with some wins, and again, I think it's just LDP carrying the comp. I think he's like, hey, listen, like, I know for a fact my board should not be winning these fights at all, so I'm really gonna have to start rolling and trying to see if I can find a way to spike my board as much as possible while I still can, while I have my streak, while I can preserve HP, right? But here, surprisingly enough, again, still wins that fight. It's very, very close, and we are sitting very comfy with a 63 HP lead. And it's just fucking insane with the 4 win as well. He does try and roll a bit more here for some upgrades. I can't really tell what he's looking for, to be completely honest with you. Maybe it's Cassante 2, maybe it's Nasus 2, but at this point, you're only rolling for 2 more upgrades. I don't really know if it's actually that worth it. It's possible his Garen is only a Garen 1, so maybe he's like, oh yeah, I mean, maybe I want to roll for Garen 2 as well. But I'm pretty sure his Garen is already a 2-star. Who the fuck runs Garen on their board anymore? But we are chilling. We actually managed to streak out throughout stage 5 with this jank fucking board. And it's very surprising how far this board has come because, again, we have very little bow items. We only have the Shiv, and actually low-key a bit redundant because of the Spark. But on top of that, he's actually able to preserve his HP really, really well. So here we do get an item, complete item anvil as well. Ginsu's is perfect from the spot. We did have that extra item from Void as well. So I would take Ginsu's here 1000% of the time here. Simon onto the Azir. And now we have a decent slash pretty strongly well itemized Azir. What? He picked Gunblade. That's surprising. Yes, you don't have a lot of healing on your board except for Lux if she rolls a Radiant Gunblade, but I don't know if Gunblade is actually that much stronger than Ginsu in this spot. These fights are lasting a really long time though, so it's kind of surprising to see that it's actually lasting out. But not only is that surprising, you know what else is surprising? He's still fucking winning with a 0 Lux on his board. That is crazy. And he's actually still donkey rolling here trying to find the last of his upgrades. Finds the majority of them except for Garen 2. Okay, I was wrong earlier. He just doesn't have Garen 2. But now it just looks like we're just going to try to go fast 9 from the spot to try to play and tech into some legendaries. Again, really crazy that this board is actually surviving. Again, if you try this board in your ranked games and you don't have LDP, you will feel the fucking pain. It does not feel very good. It's kind of a shit goddamn board. But crazy enough, it's working. I guess that's the secret sauce to Azir Lux this patch, is that you need LDP. Kind of interesting. Again, let me know your thoughts on this comp, because I don't think this comp is very strong, if strong at all. But under the right conditions, such as this one, maybe it's kind of good. Maybe it's kind of good. Okay, 63 HP. We are losing here. I wouldn't be surprised if we end with the second here. Obviously, you want to end with the first. You want to cap out here, but we don't have the most amount of money. But we are being a bit of a rat picking up the Shroud here. I mean, of course, it's turning. You got to do it. Definitely the best item to pick up off this carousel here. But nonetheless, we are 25 gold, really. Like, is there really a world we're ever going to go level 9 here? Also, holding the Shen doesn't really make sense to me. Good thing that he sold it. He wants to make economy here. But the Shen is no way fitting on his board. His level 9 unit is probably just a Heimerdinger. I think for him, he's probably realized that his max cap is already kind of hit. So he just wants to play around his cap for as long as he can. And then try to cap it out even further at level 9. Because that's really the only thing that you can really do within this spot. Really crazy that he is actually still chilling, by the way. It's actually a top 2, surprisingly enough, with this board. And he's rolling again. He's actually rolling down again here. And actually, not even that bad of an idea. I thought initially, I was like, whoa, why are you rolling again? It actually kind of makes sense. We are 50 HP, which is a lot, but we are going to be entering stage 7 very soon. We are probably very unlikely to win against this guy. So I actually think we won't be able to generate enough econ to go 9 and then tech in something useful. So he's rolling at 8 here to try to find any other like 3-star 4-cost win cons, any other strong units that he can maybe play, and... Oh. He just won. What? I feel like this was kind of a bot lobby, don't you think? But I mean, anyways, we did learn something today. Shurima, as your Lux, is actually playable if you have LDP. Good stuff. Okay. That's surprising. I did not expect him to win this fucking lobby at all with that shipboard. But I guess LDP is too broken. Anyways, sounds good, guys. I hope you guys learned something. Take care and happy climbing. I'll see you guys for day 2 tomorrow.